Welcome to the State Significant Development Committee meeting of Muswell Shire Council, being held in the TEC meeting room, level 1, Tertiary Education Centre, Hill Street, Muswellbrook, on Tuesday, 14 July 2026. I declare the meeting open at 4:02 p.m. Please note the meeting is being live streamed and will be made available on the Council's website. I'll ask Councillor Douglas for the acknowledgement of country, please.
We are proud to acknowledge the Wonnarua people, the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live. We pay our deepest respects to our First Nation leaders and elders, past, present and emerging, who are the keepers of history, traditions, knowledge and culture. We commit to working in collaboration with traditional owners in a spirit of reconciliation and partnership. As we meet today, let us reflect on the knowledge and stories that have been shared on this land for thousands of generations and commit to walking together in a spirit of respect and understanding.
Thanks, Councillor Douglas. Please be seated. We have two apologies, Councillor Scholes, Councillor Neal. Both apologies. Someone want to move that way? Councillor Douglas, Councillor Bailey, all those in favour? We have an application for attendance via audio visual link from Councillor Dunn. Someone want to move that way? Councillor Marshall, Councillor Bailey, all those in favour? Accepted. Thank you. Confirmation of the previous minutes to the minutes of the State Significant Development Committee. The meeting held on 9 June 26 are listed in the agenda. Everyone has a copy of those. Someone want to move that they be taken as read and confirmed as a true record, please? Councillor Douglas, Councillor Marshall, all those in favour? None against. Declare that carried. Disclosures of any pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest. On my left, Councillor Douglas, Councillor Hartley, Councillor Barry. Councillor Dunn?
No.
Councillor Marshall?
Yeah.
Councillor?
No.
I have none myself. There is nil business arising out of the minutes. So we'll move straight into our business for the meeting. The business is the Upper Hunter Energy Battery Storage System. And today, to address the meeting, from the North Harbour Clean Energy Company, we have, in regards to 6.1, we have Casey, Daniel and Chris. So we'll give you a few minutes. We've got a lot on our agenda, so we'll give you a few minutes. If you can obviously give your address and then stand there for councillors to have any questions. Thanks, sir.
Do you have some slides that things can work?
Sorry?
Got some slides.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Aye.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm not going through all of those slides. There's some things that I think we need it for reference and anticipation of some of your questions, but we've got about 10 slides to go through. I'll try and go through them pretty quickly. That will take about 10 minutes and then leave some time for questions, but if you need it to be quicker than that, I can speed through.
That's right.
So thank you for your time today. We're here to talk about the Upper Hunter Energy Storage System, which is partially located in the Upper Hunter Shire and partially in the Muswellbrook Shire. This is the things that we wanted to go through today. Basically an overview of the project, where we're at in the EIS preparation phase and lodgement, and then some of the key matters that have been raised by council in our engagement today. So we are from North Harbour Clean Energy. The proponent for this project will be Mazewood, who is a company that originally proposed the project in the scoping phase and have now become a wholly owned part of North Harbour Clean Energy. So myself, I'm Casey Joshua. I'm the Director of Planning and Engagement at North Harbour. I've also got Daniel Walsh, Director of Delivery, and Chris Lynch, who is the Executive Director of Development at North Harbour. Very quickly, North Harbour is an Australian-based company. We're backed by Australian investors as well, and we're focused on energy storage as the key enabler in the transition that our energy grid is going through. So we're focused on mostly BESS developments, battery energy storage system developments, with a New South Wales focus at this point, and we have a few projects that are at various stages in the planning phase in New South Wales, and we're also exploring some pumped hydro in South Australia and New South Wales as well. We aim to, a key goal we have is to construct, own and operate the projects for their entire life phase. So we're building a team in-house with the capability to be able to trade the energy on the national energy market, and also we really want to be good neighbours with all of our projects. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, setting our reputation up from the start, because we're in it for the long haul. Look a little bit smaller up there, my apologies, but so the project is located, the west side of the project is located in Aberdeen, and we are seeking to, very small, into the capacity of the project is 400 megawatts with an installed capacity of 920 megawatt hours, but the output would be 800 megawatt hours battery energy storage system. The technology is lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry. The BESS will be located within the Upper Hunter Shire, right on the boundary of the Muswellbrook Shire. So it's to the south of Campbell Street in Aberdeen, and then we're seeking to connect into the existing 330 kV transmission infrastructure, which is a couple of kilometres to the east of the project. And so the transmission easement has undergone a few different iterations. The current one has us going directly east and out through some Crown land. We also have a proposal in the current design to provide underground cabling under Royal Valley Road, which traverses from the Upper Hunter Shire into Muswellbrook Shire and into a switching station right next to the existing transmission infrastructure. There's just over 13 hectares of direct disturbance area. The construction period will be between 18 to 24 months, and there'll be up to 100 work. The life of the project is 3 to 25-year operating life, and then we're proposing decommissioning, site maintenance. Just going into that alignment that I spoke about. So this is the BESS site over here. This is Perth Street in Aberdeen, and then Campbell Street comes down to the south. So we're proposing to construct a new access road, and the BESS site, all of this is within the Upper Hunter Shire along this alignment there is a Shire line, or LGA boundary line just here. And so there's about 300 metres of underground cable in the Wells Valley Road infrastructure that we are aware that there is a draft policy for infrastructure, private infrastructure in road reserves that we will seek to make an application on if that policy is adopted. And then we will go overhead again along this alignment here into the switching station, and this is the existing transmission infrastructure. I just wanted to then go through some of the council feedback that we have received to date. So that's in part the council submission that was made during the scoping phase that informed the Secretary's environmental assessment requirements that we received, and then also our engagement through meetings and other correspondence with council. One of the concerns was raised around the temporary workforce accommodation, because there is a cumulative impact. There's a lot of SSD activity in your LGA. So I'll go through that in the next slide. Also the traffic and transport, so our heavy vehicle movement through the Muswellbrook LGA. There's also visual impact questions raised around how visible the project will be from components in the Muswellbrook Shire along New England Highway and also along Wells Valley Road. There's a visual impact assessment that informs the EIS, and it demonstrates there's a low visual impact from the New England Highway, and it's got very limited visibility from the portion of the New England Highway within Muswellbrook Shire. So that impact is mainly from the Upper Hunter Shire side of the New England Highway. In terms of the residents along Wells Valley Road, it is going to be visible from Wells Valley Road. There's 2 residents where we've identified a moderate impact, and we're talking to those residents about how we can provide further mitigation measures and come to agreements with those residents. But the overall impact along Wells Valley Road is not deemed to be a high impact. In terms of noise, another council's request was that we prepare a noise impact assessment that includes consideration of the darkroom operation, which it does. So our background noise we've done a few different background noise monitoring that's informed the noise impact assessment. Some of those were during the operation of darkroom cold handling processing plant, and some of it was when it was not in operation. But in both situations where the noise impact assessment has demonstrated noise compliance at all receivers or sensitive receivers, particularly the ones within Aberdeen, we do need to construct the noise source to achieve that. towards the Northern project. Other comments that we received were around biodiversity with the transmission line. So the transmission line has been refined a number of times, and we have done that to avoid and minimise the impacts on native vegetation wherever we can. And so the overall, we've done some targeted surveys for almost 30 species, and we found that there's going to be no impacts on any threatened species along that transmission line and for the best and the switching station site as well. There's also some questions about waste and decommissioning. We have prepared a preliminary waste management plan that has, we have had preliminary conversations with Council's waste management manager, and they've indicated that they will provide comments through the AFA. So in terms of the temporary workforce accommodation, at peak period, which is a couple of months there, around if we commence construction in August of 2027, that's a very big if, but that's what this graph is based on. This is the kind of trajectory of the employees that we will receive or we expect to be present at the site. So it peaks at around 100 for a couple of months, and that's during the BESS installation and the electrical substation works. So those two lines there, we've prepared a preliminary accommodation strategy that is part of the EIS, and that assesses the cumulative workforce impact, including the consideration of all other major regional projects that are in the public domain. And what the research has found is that we've also assessed the local capability, workforce capability, and we anticipate that at varying stages, so in the early phases of construction, we'll probably be able to have 60% local workforce, 40% non-local workforce. And then that goes to the worst case scenario is at that peak of 100 workers, where there'll be a 40% local workforce, 60% non-local workforce. So that's the lighter blue line represents. That's the amount of accommodation that we expect we will need during those different construction phases. But again, it's something that, it's a moving feast, and it's something that we'll be committed to preparing an accommodation strategy if we get approval, and that will be in consultation with councils, local accommodation providers. We're also having preliminary conversations with temporary workforce accommodation providers in the area. And so there seems to be at this stage capacity at the time frame that we needed to be able to accommodate our non-local workforce. The other question that council had raised is the traffic and transport. So at that peak period of construction, the batteries will be delivered on heavy vehicles, class 1 OSOM vehicles, so not the high risk oversized over mass vehicles, and they'll be up to, at peak period, up to 6 of those arriving per day. The higher risk ones are in relation to the transformer and switch rooms. They will require export from the Port of Newcastle is where we anticipate to have those constructed. In early discussions with council, we identified that we were proposing to use the Port to Rest route, and there's some construction works that are occurring under that Port to Rest program. Council indicated concerns that might not be finished by the time we're seeking construction, and requested that we consider an alternative route. So the darker blue is the Port to Rest route from Port of Newcastle to the site. Assuming that all of those construction works will be completed. If we're able to utilise that route, then the only upgrades that we'll need to do is in Perth Street in the Upper Hunter Shire. The red line there is the alternative route that we have considered, and that does come through Muswellbrook and then considered the detour via Bell, Victoria and Market Street in Muswellbrook, and there's about 11 square metres of additional hard stand area that we would need to construct if we were to use that area, that route. So we need to have ongoing discussions with council if it's to utilise that route. However, the Energy Code website is still indicating that the Port to Rest works will be completed by the end of 2026. So I think that's just an ongoing discussion that we need to have. Regardless, both of those routes are feasible for us, have been assessed as feasible in our OSOM route analysis. It's just whichever way we go, we'll have to have that ongoing conversation with council. The other thing I just really quickly wanted to talk about was our community engagement and benefit sharing. So we have done what I think is quite a comprehensive engagement plan. We've been talking to members of the community and government agencies and councils since 2023. We've connected with over 900 residents. We've done community drop-in sessions, community information sessions. We've been at different events throughout the region. We've also connected with council government agencies and emergency services and First Nations organisations. What we've heard is probably unsurprising from this project are questions around fire safety, visual amenity and noise, traffic accommodation and cumulative impact and community benefits. So in terms of community benefits, we have proposed to enter into a planning agreement both with the Upper Hunter Council and with Muswellbrook Council. So the portion of the development that's within the Muswellbrook Shire is the easement cables and then also the switching station. They don't have a megawatt hour equivalent. So we haven't based our offer to Muswellbrook Council on the New South Wales guidelines. It only has a megawatt hour, a dollar value per megawatt hour proposal. So we've based it on council's contributions, the 1% contribution. So that's based on 1% of the cost of that portion of the development. That would be separate to any kind of license or payment that we would need to make to the council if we were to be successful in the underground cables in the Wells Gully Road Reserve. And so we put that proposal to council in December, and we're happy to continue conversations and receive feedback on that, as necessary. But that's what the proposal is at this point. And that's, I know that's very quick. I'm mindful that you have a full agenda, so
Yeah, that's fine.
go into more detail to that.
Any councillors got any questions about the project? Anything?
Yeah. My name's Nick.
You're right.
Thanks, Katie. Just, I know obviously it mentions that lower risk because of the type of battery and all that, but and with the consultation with local fire service and all that, is there anything extra in it, like as far as training or things that can be done for both the rural and local fire stations that would make sure that that's definitely something that gets addressed, as far as I know, silly things like locked gates and, obviously there's still risks with transmission lines and high voltage, and just wondering if there's any sort of extra contribution given to the effect that it'll have on those services.
Yes, definitely. So we've been speaking with the local Aberdeen New South Wales Fire Rescue Brigade. They're a retained fire service, and we've been talking to them a lot about the hazards risk analysis that we've done, any kind of mitigation that we need. We're also talking to them about when we finalise construction, there'll be a phase where we go through a commissioning phase before we're allowed to re-electrify and operate the project. And so before we commence that commissioning phase, we're exploring options where we can do a simulation day with all of the emergency access the information that they need. We'll also be talking to them. Obviously, we need an emergency response management plan and also a fire safety study that gets approved by those relevant agencies in the post-approval phase. And so we would need to make sure that all of the response plans we have in their satisfaction and through all those guidelines in the post-approval phase. But then we have also offered we could do annual training for those any firefighters from Muswellbrook as well. Muswellbrook and Aberdeen, and any of the other first responders. We can do some annual training days, so that, again, with that simulation, so that if there's resource turnover, then they've got that skill set. And then also because we'll be a hazard response, Aberdeen's not set up for that as well. So we've talking to them about ways we might be able to support any of those upgrades they might want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a couple. Any questions? You wrote, I don't know whether you're aware, workers' accommodation. I think you said if we get approval, we're prepared to talk to council in regards to workers' accommodation, temporary work accommodation. I guess that's not our approach. Our approach is you don't get approval till you talk to council. We have the other way around, and we in fact OX2, the recent OX2 project, you've probably seen the conditions. imposed on them, where they've got to come and talk to council about temporary worker accommodation. The issue I see here for Muswellbrook is we haven't really got at the moment, and we're working on temporary worker accommodation. We may have some by your start date, but the issue that I've got here is in the conditions, and I can only imagine we'll probably make a submission to this, is that the project isn't, you're right, the majority of the project isn't in our shire, but we haven't got one bed for anyone we haven't got one bed for anyone in our shire. We certainly haven't got one bed for anyone who's working in an adjacent shire to us. So it would seem foolish for council for us to be imposing these conditions, or certainly doing what we can to impose these conditions on projects in our own shire that will directly benefit from, when there's a possibility of a project in another shire can come and do exactly what we're trying to stop the projects in our own shire doing. So I can only imagine that this council won't preempt what councillors might want to do, but I can only preempt that there'll certainly be a submission in regards to any accommodation that I think 100, did you say, up in your at peak 100?
Expected to be, yes, 60. It's been on like work the first 2 months. So my apologies, I meant to say that in the post-approval phase, we'll have to talk to council to be able to progress our current accommodation strategy and go into the more detailed design and the detailed implications of what that might mean. I think that we've done an analysis about the vacancy of Kensington, Muswellbrook, Spain and Aberdeen as well, and the strategy that our consultants have put together at the moment in the accommodation strategy that accompanies the EIS says that there is capacity to support our local workforce during those times, as long as we make sure it's outside of peak tourism time. But also we are aware of some plans of a temporary workforce development that are being prepared very, very close to our site in our Shire. And so we're talking to our provider as well. So we don't anticipate having to have any short-term accommodation or rental dwelling impact on any of the area.
Well, I guess our position, or I have the position very clear when you hear conditions to operate the position clear, because we don't hold the same view that there would be 60 beds at any time available in the Shire. We've done some extensive research on how much it isn't available. The next question I have is you spoke about transporting the equipment. I won't speak on behalf of Energy Co. I'll be surprised if it's ready by the end of this year, considering they haven't started. They'll start to talk to us next week about the other. They've certainly raised it with us, but I guess you're meaning what they refer to as 1B. So it's around probably the road and around that. I'm not sure whether you're aware, but council currently has a position where we won't approve any heavy loads. If it's council's position, won't approve any heavy loads, any ocean loads through Muswellbrook that where their destination isn't in Muswellbrook Shire. That would be the case for you. Of course, your destination for that would be up Hunter Shire, not Muswellbrook Shire. So that currently is the position that council have taken.
Transformers are in Muswellbrook Shire.
The transformers would be, that's right, yeah, but of course the project itself is in Muswellbrook Shire. Most of those pieces would be Muswellbrook Shire. So obviously that's a position, but it is, you're right. It wasn't so long ago. We've had a couple now. We had at McCulley's Gap. We had 10 proponents out there speak at the moment. They are lining up to get into the same substation, and it's a race to see who's going to get there first. So certainly, we would be, we'll no doubt make a submission. But yeah, we certainly do see. I certainly immediately flag some issues with transport, because ultimately. At the moment, it stands at the moment, that equipment you're talking about would have to go through the main street of Muswellbrook, go through the centre of town. As it is right now, if Energy Co don't sort out, the bypass is not going to be ready. If that's all I know we're referring to.
Our deliveries, like with the information we have, that'll be ready by the end of 26. Our deliveries won't be at the end of 26. We've got to do it over on that. So we likely won't start that construction until mid-27. By the time we actually transport our transformers, we spend on after that. So we've probably got a good few months on that, but we'll keep an eye on that as well. But we definitely like to have it for a chat about, you know, empowering rules and also because, as I said, these alternative routes, I think something we have to consider. So we'd like to have some further chats about it.
Yeah, I think it's important that we continue to talk because we have, and this is not criticism of anyone else, and we have a bit different view on the use of our roads and the use of our accommodation, maybe than some other councils do. Any further questions?
We're hoping,
Sorry.
do you mind if I just
Yes.
add that we're hoping that if we enter into a planning agreement with council, then that's something that council accepts in terms of the impacts that our project will have within the Muswellbrook Shire. So that's partly to contribute to any infrastructure impacts that we might have, including some of this area. Or so I think that the alternative route assessment was a requirement for an additional 11 square metres of hard stand area at the Bell Street intersection, and then I think going from Bell to Victoria, and then from Market to the New England Highway an additional 9 square metres. So that's something that we will need to factor into conversations. But we also, we've got an agreement that we'll enter into with council as well. Hopefully we get to a point where that is accepted in principle. Yeah, so we're definitely.
No, we got plenty of grant. No further questions. I do thank you for your time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on with our business. So 6.1, there is a motion to be moved. So the information contained in the report be noted. Someone want to move that way? Councillor Ward, Councillor Bailey, all those in favour? Clear that unanimously carried. Thank you. 6.2. So the Hunter Vanadium Flow Battery Project, planning agreement, general terms. So the recommendation in front of you reads that the State Significant Development Committee resolves to accept the initial offer submitted by Idemitsu for the Hunter Vanadium Flow Battery Project in accordance with staff comments provided in attachment B. Have I got someone want to move that way? Councillor Marshall. Second, Councillor Hartley. Councillor Marshall wish to talk there. Councillor Hartley.
No.
Any questions? No questions. I'll put that. All those in favour? Clear that carried. Thank you. 6.3 is just our, as we do each month, our activity summary. The State Significant Committee. The motion to be moved is that the information in the report be noted. Someone will move that way. Councillor Bailey, seconded Councillor Hartley. Any questions on any of those issues listed? No questions. I'll put that. All those in favour? That carried. Thank you. We have no closed committee, and the date of the next meeting is the 11th of August 2026. That brings this meeting to a close at 4:29. Thank you.